One of the things I love about hunting is being able to escape into the backcountry and be alone. A wise man once said, quote, "Only in the wilderness can I find solitude without loneliness," unquote. I think that's the reason why a lot of us like to hunt personally. And it seems like for me, the deeper I go and the further from the road, the more rich the experience is. The problem comes with getting an animal out when you get one deep in the woods, especially when you're hunting solo. So for the last couple of years, I've searched high and low to try to find the best game card. One that would be light enough to pack on my back if needed, sturdy enough to haul out my gear, and stable enough to handle a big game animal by myself. There are several other carts out there, but I really couldn't find anything that seemed to meet my needs until I came across the Pack Wheel. I wasn't completely sold on it at first and watched all the videos that I could online. But after being fairly convinced that this was the right thing for me, I contacted Brady, the owner. I found him to be very friendly and honest, and I don't think you're going to find a better guy to buy a product from. He'll treat you right, and I can promise you that. As for the Pack Wheel, this was my experience. I purchased a 29er so I could get the best clearance over obstacles because I knew where I would be hunting there was going to be a lot of deadfall and rocks. Out of the box, I was a little surprised at how large the wheel is actually. I found it easy to put the panniers on the frame and just follow the directions that came with the package. I bought both the gear panniers and the meat panniers, and I would highly recommend doing both. It makes the job a lot easier. The other accessory that I also purchased was the pull yoke. It really only takes a few minutes to put the panniers together and strap the gear on and get the pull yoke ready to go. And if I were going to make the purchase again, I think I would do the same thing. My first trip with a Pack Wheel was hunting with my 12-year-old and 14-year-old daughter on their very first deer hunt. They both drew buck tags in a favorite area, and we would be hunting far from the road. In fact, we needed to walk a couple of miles past the end of the road in the dark just to get where we would be hunting. So I also knew that anything we shot back there would take a lot of work to get it out, especially with 2 tags. Averaging less than about 100 pounds between the two of them, I figured I'd be packing out most of the meat myself, so I was glad when the Pack Wheel arrived a few weeks prior to our anticipated hunt. I was fairly confident that we were going to get a deer down, and probably that first day, so I actually just pushed the Pack Wheel along with us as we hunted and as we hiked in. I found it to be very quiet. It only weighs about 10 pounds, and it was really effortless to pick up and take across sagebrush slopes and also through trees and around obstacles. When I came to obstacles, I usually just picked it up and carried it, but it was also easy to push it over the top. As for the hunt, we had to brave the elements, and it snowed quite a bit on us that first day. But by the end of the first day, my 12-year-old daughter was able to get her first buck. She shot it at 80 yards, and it was this handsome 3x3. I looked at the GPS, and it showed that we were about 3.5 miles from the end of the road. So we hiked out that night and returned the next morning, glad to find that no coyotes or mountain lions had gotten to the carcass. After finishing out the boning out process, it took about 10 minutes to get the meat in the meat panniers and then get them strapped onto the side of the Pack Wheel. It really was a fairly simple process. It is important to try to balance the weight equally on both sides so that the Pack Wheel is easier to balance as it's on the trail or as you're using it. But for the most part, I think I probably had 5 or 10 pounds more on one side than the other, and it wasn't super noticeable. You can see in this clip that it is actually very easy with a 29-inch wheel to take the Pack Wheel over obstacles and across the slopes without any significant difficulty. I'm actually going uphill for most of this time during this clip. One of the nice things that I noticed, one of the nice features that I really enjoyed about the Pack Wheel was the braking system. It made it really nice when I was going uphill and I had to turn around or shift from side to side. I could use that brake to stabilize the load. As you can see, there were periods of snow. I think the deepest snow that we went through is probably about 2 inches on the trail, coming back in some of the deeper timber, and it really didn't have any difficulty, no sliding or anything like that as I was going. Probably the main challenge that I had in getting that first deer out was when I came to obstacles where the brush was really thick, like in this clip right here. I'm trying to get between some ceanothus bushes, and it's just really too thick to get through. I found the same problem getting through very thick sagebrush, but it didn't require that much difficulty to get around it as long as I went downhill or uphill. And as you can see right here, there were a few times when I had to back up and pull the wheel up over a rock, but it was actually very simple to do that and get back on the trail. This is really the only time when I needed to use the pull yoke, and we were coming across a rock slide, and so I had my 12-year-old daughter pull the pull yoke out on the front, and she was able to help pull the wheel and the meat up over the top of this rock slide. And as you can see, we really didn't have that much difficulty as long as we picked the right sections to go through. But overall, it made what would have been a very difficult trip through this rock slide with 100 and something pounds of meat on my back. It made it very simple. Here you can see my 12-year-old daughter having the opportunity to bring the meat out, and here she's going on fairly flat ground and on a trail. She really didn't seem to have much difficulty with the weight, but it did take her a little while to learn how to balance it. So we came back in the next day, and over the next few days hunted deep into the back country again. And my 14-year-old daughter had several different opportunities to get shots off of bucks, but really wasn't quite quick enough with the trigger. So we decided to sit on this ridge, and right before dark, a decent little buck came out, and she was able to get a shot off and put that deer down at about 150 yards. And this is us getting her deer out. You can see it is really pretty easy to take that uphill when it's fully loaded with one deer. There's no trail that I'm going on there. I'm just side hilling it, and the sagebrush isn't really thick in this area, so it made it very, very easy to go on the side hill. I didn't find any slippage. I didn't feel like I was going to lose control of the pack at all, and it was actually very simple. After getting it back down to the trail here, I gave my daughter the opportunity to have at it, and she was able to pack it out quite a ways, and I probably could have just let her pack it out the rest of the way. But honestly, it was such a breeze to take it out. I actually kind of enjoyed using the pack wheel. So my overall impression of the pack wheel is that it's everything that I would have hoped it would be. It's light, it's very easy to hold stable. The braking system makes it very nice going up and down hills. It is challenging going through thick sagebrush when it's fully loaded, but I had very little difficulty going over obstacles such as down trees and boulders. We packed out 2 boned out deer, a total of about 4.5 to 5 miles with no strain on my back, and that's the first time I could say that I've had that experience. Another advantage I found was that I strapped my 40-pound bag onto the pack wheel frame and used it to carry my pack. The other days that I was hunting, it made it much easier to do it that way than to try to carry the pack wheel on my back, or even push it, or really even just carry my pack on my back. I do recommend that you carry some bungee cords with you, and probably a little bit of rope to help strap on a pack or the head or antlers of the animal that you might be packing out. I also had the chance to take it on a solo hunt in about 18 inches of snow. I put my pack on it, and surprisingly it handled very well in the deep snow. I packed several miles back and most of the way that was without a trail, and I really had no troubles handling it. I'm excited to continue to use it on my backcountry trips. I did place my tent and sleeping bags and gear into the gear panniers, and everything fit as long as I strapped my pack to the top of the frame with other gear in the gear panniers on the sides. I believe that the meat panniers will probably hold a full cow elk in one trip, as the deer did not even come close to being half capacity of what the panniers would carry. I'm planning on packing out an elk later this year, and we'll try to post another video of how that experience goes. Again, I'm very happy with this product and the service that I received from Brady. If you love to get deep into the backcountry like I do, you'll probably find this to be an indispensable tool in your arsenal as well.